our final segment, we wanted to talk a little bit about what time of year we're in, and read a little Dickens as well. So we are, I think the solstice is going to be on the 21st. It's always a day or two.
It is Solstice Eve.
It is Solstice Eve.
It is Solstice Eve.
All right now.
Yes.
So here in the Northern Hemisphere, where most people watching and listening are living in the shortest day of the year, it's definitely feeling like winter is coming. And boy, is there widespread fatigue and just exhaustion with everything that's going on. And, Hanukkah has always been around this time of year, but it was sort of a minor holiday. Christmas, I actually don't know the history. And in my natal home growing up, it was always a time of great joy and wonder and lights and family and community and all of this. And the fact that there is no historical evidence that Jesus was born anywhere near the winter solstice, the northern winter solstice, and in fact, I think there may be some evidence that he was quite precisely not, suggests that moving a major holiday for one of the major world's religions to a moment exactly as pagan rituals that might actually honor things like the solstice, astronomical realities, were being downplayed, would help people at a time when things are literally getting dark, when astronomically things are at their darkest and things are about to get even colder. And even though the shortest day of the year is in 2 short days from when we are talking, the day length changes are very slow right now. We're not going to really start seeing a significant uptick in day length for several more weeks after the solstice. So all of that suggests that regardless of what you think about there being a sky god or not, that there is value in ritual, and there is value specifically in being around festivity and light, and that is all but impossible this year for many people. That the combination of the actual virus and the societal response to it has meant that the vast majority of people, at least in the U.S., are effectively or actually again in lockdown. And it means that many people have actually not had a normal interaction with another human being for the better part of a year. And it's tragic. And may we have a much better one of these next year. But also, everyone can get through this. Like we can all get through this. And I know it's really hard. You're looking at me like you have something.
Well, the somber tone you're taking is going to make it impossible to make fun of this holiday.
Okay, go for it, and then I'll read Dickens, who does.
No, I would never. Of
course you do.
Well, look. The thing is, Christmas is really it's about faith, clearly, at a very, very
originally
deep level. Yeah, no, I mean in more modern times, because you're giving me that look. No, look, it's one thing to have.
This is going to be about reindeer, isn't it?
Oh no, reindeer! Come on, that's a myth. Yeah, no, look, it's one thing to have faith. That the universe of 300 sextillion stars was created by somebody intentionally, right? And that all of this is part of some plan. It's one thing to have that level of faith. A lot of people do and have for millennia. It's another thing entirely to have faith that you can cut a tree off its roots and bring it indoors, and it's going to be all right. And then, all right, as if
thinks it's going to be all right. It is pretty, and it smells good, and it's enjoyable.
It looks weird.
You're a bad person.
It's true. But the whole thing was set in motion by a radical rabbi, as I think of him. So anyway, I think it's perfectly...
I don't think the trees were. I think many of the parts of the Christmas traditions that I like the most are actually borrowed from the pagan traditions that preexisted them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I do think it's a solstice holiday, and that
exactly.
It's actually we will at some point. I think we have not talked about the odd fact of the calendar not being an integer number of days, and therefore there being an incredibly hilarious history of people trying to figure out how many days are there in a year and getting it wrong and bad things happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, there is reason to have
God's meanest joke.
Well, this is the wrong season for me to be saying this, right in between Hanukkah and Christmas, but
Okay.
I think that this is the proof that one of two things has to be true, right? Either this universe was not created by a god, or he hates us. Because if it was created by a loving God, it would be an integer number of days, right? And it would be a lot easier to know when to plant your crops and all of the important things that go with that. But by making it a
You
fraction,
could deduce it anyway, and then you'd have a stable answer. And
right, exactly. And so this is either God's joke on us, or he's absent. He was at least absent in the creation phase of the universe. Am I in trouble now? I have a feeling
sure you
I may
are.
be in big trouble. All right.
Let's go Dickens.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so it turns out we don't own a physical copy of A Christmas Carol. So there's a great site. What's it called? So I'm going to read this from a printout that I got, but Gutenberg.org has put publicly available versions of many of the classics online. So even if you don't own a particular book, you can find them in their entirety. This is from A Christmas Carol, first published in 1843, written, of course, by Charles Dickens. And this is a play that we saw, was it last year or the year before? We've seen it recently.
And we saw it locally. We saw it
Yeah,
here.
we saw it recently in Portland with my mom. This is the first Christmas, aside from when we were in Mexico a couple of years ago. I think that we have not been with my mom since our children were born. So that is a sadness. Here we go. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who in a dismal little cell beyond, a sort of tank, was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. But he couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room, and so surely as the clerk came in with a shovel, the master predicted that it would be necessary for them to part. Wherefore the clerk put on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at the candle, in which effort, not being a man of a strong imagination, he failed. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation he had of his approach. "Bah!" said Scrooge. "Humbug!" He had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost, this nephew of Scrooge's, that he was all in a glow. His face was ruddy and handsome, his eyes sparkled, and his breath smoked again. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle!" said Scrooge's nephew. "You don't mean that, I am sure." "I do," said Scrooge. "Merry Christmas! What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough." "Come then," returned the nephew gaily. "What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough." Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said "Bah!" again, and followed it up with "Humbug." "Don't be cross, Uncle," said the nephew. "What else can I be," returned the uncle, "when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas! Out upon Merry Christmas! What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money, a time for finding yourself a year older but not an hour richer, a time for balancing your books and having every item in them through a round dozen of months presented dead against you? If I could work my will," said Scrooge indignantly, "every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. He should." "Uncle," pleaded the nephew. "Nephew," returned the uncle sternly, "keep Christmas in your own way, and let me keep it in mine." "Keep it," repeated Scrooge's nephew, "but you don't keep it." "Let me leave it alone, then," said Scrooge. Much good may it do to you, much good it has ever done to you." "There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say," returned the nephew. "Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time, when it has come around, apart from the veneration due its sacred name and origin, if anything belonging to it can be apart from that, as a good time. A kind, forgiving, charitable, and pleasant time. The only time I know of, in the long calendar of the year, when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely, and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave, and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good, and it will do me good, and I say, God bless it.
Nice.
Yeah.
It does raise exactly the question that you began with respect to this being a uniquely isolating Christmas.
It is.
And maybe we will figure out what to do about that. In other words, there are hints of us developing new ways of interacting with each other that do not replace being physically together, but nonetheless are better than staring at your TV. So anyway, maybe
you just leave that as a tease. for now?
Well, I just think, maybe it's the darkest. Well, as you point out, the days are about to start getting longer, even though it's going to continue to get colder.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it will be a winter of innovation.
Oh, let us hope.
Yep.
Let us hope. Have a great Christmas. Hope you had a great Hanukkah. Lovely solstice. Pagan rituals for everyone. Try to stay whole and happy and get outside almost no matter how bad the weather is, and that'll help.
Yeah, and if you can, do something. Watch the sunset on the solstice. Something to just mark that point. It really is, it's the point of hitting bottom and heading back up.
Yeah.
Slowly at first, but anyway, we're headed in the right direction. And here's the thing: today we can say winter is coming. Next time, it will be spring that is coming.